US Navy has launched the next generation aircraft carrier that comes with powerful lasers that is making waves all over the world. Now, let's talk about why this new carrier is making waves. The USS Gerald R. Ford is the most expensive warship in history. When first commissioned, it cost $13.3 billion, but after having extra equipment added, the cost increased to $14 billion. It's the Navy's most advanced carrier yet, designed to dominate the seas for decades to come. We're going to see that some of that extra equipment is very special indeed. This beast of a ship has a massive flight deck that spans over 5 acres, allowing it to carry more than 60 aircrafts, but if needed, it can pack up to 90. To put its size into perspective, it stands more than 9 stories above the waterline and weighs around 100,000 tons, which is 35,000 tons heavier than the largest battleships from World War II. And just because it's big doesn't mean it's slow. Powered by 2 cutting-edge A1B nuclear reactors, it can move at over 34 miles per hour or 30 knots, which is insanely fast for something this massive. It's like an entire New York City block just cruising through the ocean. Now, the biggest threat to these giant aircraft carriers isn't enemy submarines or fighter jets. It's hypersonic missiles. China, in particular, has been working on highly maneuverable missiles that can travel at Mach 10. That's 10 times the speed of sound. Some of these missiles can even change direction mid-air, making them nearly impossible to shoot down. The Pentagon has been worried about this for years, and in a 2022 report, military analysts openly question if traditional aircraft carriers like the USS Ford could even survive a battle against modern anti-ship missiles and drone swarms. To stay ahead and make sure these carriers don't turn into sitting ducks, the Navy is betting big on a new kind of weapon, one that doesn't run out of ammo and hits targets at the speed of light. We're talking about lasers. Unlike traditional missile defense systems that rely on shooting projectiles, lasers work instantly. There's no missiles to reload, no ammunition stockpiles, just concentrated energy. The USS Ford's nuclear reactors generate 300 megawatts of power, enough to power an entire city, so running these high-energy lasers is no problem. And the best part is lasers don't miss. They fire at light speed, which means they can take down even hypersonic missiles before they even get close. Not only that, but they can keep firing indefinitely, making them perfect for defending against swarms of drones or multiple incoming threats, something that projectile-based defense systems struggle with. China knows these lasers are a game changer, which is why their military strategists are now scrambling to figure out how to counter them. This has completely shifted the naval arms race, forcing other countries to rethink how future battles at sea will play out. But a question arises. Will laser weapons make the USS Ford truly unstoppable? Right now, China's navy is massive. We're talking about a fleet of over 770 ships. That's more than double the size of the US Navy. Almost all of these ships are concentrated in the Pacific, while the US has to split its fleet between the Atlantic and Pacific. That means China has an overwhelming advantage in numbers. But it's not just the size of China's fleet that's concerning. It's the weapons they built specifically to take down aircraft carriers. You see, the Chinese know that US carriers are the biggest threats, so that's why the DF-21D and the DF-26 are long-range missiles designed to hit moving ships in the middle of the ocean. But the real nightmare is the DF-ZF hypersonic missile. This thing is dreadful. It flies at Mach 10 and can hit a target from over 1,500 miles away. Its speed means by the time a carrier sees it coming, it's already too late. And if that wasn't bad enough, missiles aren't the only threat. Carrier commanders have been worried for years about the rise of cheap long-range suicide drones that could crush a ship's defenses. So how does the USS Gerald R. Ford protect itself? Firstly, it never sails alone. It's always part of a carrier strike group, basically a small army of 10 or more warships, including cruisers, destroyers, and sometimes submarines. 2 of the most important ships in the group are the Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers. These ships are the bodyguards of the fleet. They have powerful radars that can detect threats over 200 miles away and are armed with surface-to-air missiles to shoot down incoming enemy attacks before they reach the carrier. And then there's the Phalanx CIWS, also known as the Sea Whiz. This thing is an absolute beast. It's a 6-barrel Gatling gun that can fire 4,500 rounds per minute. Because of its relatively short range, it's the last line of defense against incoming threats. It will blaze away at any attacker that gets close to the ship. Now, all of this sounds impressive, right? But what if they run out of ammo? The Pentagon calls this a depth of magazine problem. Basically, what happens when the Navy runs out of firepower before the enemy does? This is exactly why the military is turning to lasers. Now, forget what you see in Star Wars. These lasers don't make cool pew-pew sounds or cause massive explosions. Instead, they work by firing a focused beam on heat that can melt, disable, or completely destroy an incoming missile or drone. At low power, these lasers can blind enemy sensors, making drones or missiles useless before they can even reach their target. But crank up the power, and the laser will burn straight through a drone or missile. And lasers never run out of ammo. As long as there's enough electricity, they can keep firing forever. No need for missile restocks, no storage problems, and no delays. Just instant, unlimited defense. With the USS Gerald R. Ford's nuclear reactors generating 300 megawatts of power, there's also more than enough energy to run multiple laser weapons at once. This could mean aircraft carriers will finally have a way to defend against hypersonic missiles and drone swarms, something that was impossible just a few years ago. Now, here's what makes laser weapons so powerful. They don't need ammo. Instead, they just use pure energy to fire. As long as the USS Ford's nuclear reactors are running, it can fire thousands, even tens of thousands of times without ever needing to reload. And because lasers move at the speed of light, it can track and destroy even the fastest, most unpredictable weapons, like China's DFCF hypersonic missile, way better than traditional missiles. Right now, if a gunner wants to hit a moving target, they have to predict where it's going and aim ahead of it. But with lasers, no need for that. They hit instantly, which means there's no dodging, no outrunning, and no countering them before they lock on. But here's the part the Pentagon loves the most: the cost. Right now, if the Navy wants to take down an incoming missile, it has to use defensive missiles. Let's say China or another enemy launches hundreds of cheap drones or cruise missiles at a US aircraft carrier. Every time the Navy fires back, they're spending a big amount. This is called a negative cost exchange ratio. Basically, the US would be spending millions to stop weapons that cost only thousands. According to Congressional Research Service, firing a high-powered laser costs between $1 and $10 per shot. Yeah, you heard that right. That means instead of spending millions per missile, the Navy can now eliminate threats for a price of a coffee cup. That's a huge financial advantage in a real war. Now, lasers on ships aren't just some sci-fi concept anymore. The US Navy have been testing them for years. Back in 2014, they installed the very first laser weapon on a ship for real-world testing. It was called the LAWS, known as Laser Weapon System, and they mounted it on the deck of the USS Ponce. To an untrained eye, it just looked like a giant telescope, but in reality, it was capable of destroying drones and small boats with pinpoint accuracy. And that was a low-powered version, only 33 kilowatts. Then in 2019, a second, more powerful laser joined testing, showing even better results. But things got really serious in August 2022 when the US Navy installed its first permanent laser weapon on a real combat destroyer, the USS Preble, an Arleigh-Burke-class warship. This new laser, built by Lockheed Martin, is called Helios, short for High Energy Laser with Integrated Optical Dazzler and Surveillance System. It's 60 kilowatts right now, but Lockheed Martin says future versions will scale up to 150 kilowatts. That strength, it's perfect for taking out drones and small enemy ships. But to stop a swarm of missiles or a hypersonic weapon, the Navy needs something much stronger. So how powerful do these lasers actually need to be? Well, to take out a cruise missile, the Navy estimates they need at least a 300 kilowatt laser. And here's why that's a challenge. Cruise missiles and hypersonic weapons aren't just fast, they're also built to survive extreme heat. Their nose cones are made of special materials like pyrolytic graphite and pyroceram ceramics, materials that can withstand temperatures of over 1000 degrees Fahrenheit. That means a laser weapon has to be powerful enough to burn through these materials before the missile reaches its target. But power isn't the only issue. The laser also has to deal with atmospheric turbulence. Basically, the air around it can distort the beam, making it less effective. And since these missiles are flying at 1 mile per second, the laser has to lock on and destroy them almost instantly. So, is the Navy there yet? They're getting very close. The goal is to build lasers strong enough to completely replace traditional missile defense systems, making aircraft carriers almost untouchable against incoming attacks. If they succeed, this could be the biggest revolution in naval warfare since aircraft carriers were first introduced.
America was in the midst of a technological revolution.
But of course, this technology won't stay one-sided forever. China, Russia, and other countries are racing to develop their own laser weapons, and that means a whole new kind of arms race is just beginning. Now, the Navy is now working on something much bigger, a 300 kilowatt laser powerful enough to take down incoming anti-ship cruise missiles before they can get close. This new system is called HELCAP, short for High Energy Laser Counter ASCM Program. Sounds drastic, right? Well, it is. If everything goes according to plan, the Navy is set to start testing it as early as next year. And guess what? This isn't just some idea on paper. A leaked photo taken behind Admiral Michael Gilday, the Chief of Naval Operations, accidentally revealed that the HELCAP test system will be based on an existing laser weapon that the Navy is already using on some of its destroyers, the Optical Dazzler Interdictor System. If it works, HELCAP will be the first laser weapon capable of actually shooting down enemy cruise missiles, making US carriers much harder to hit. But the problem is, even a 300 kilowatt laser isn't strong enough to stop a hypersonic missile. Hypersonic weapons, like China's DFZF, don't just travel insanely fast at Mach 10, they're also built to survive extreme heat. Some of these missiles can handle temperatures of 1,700 degrees Fahrenheit or more while flying. That's hotter than molten lava. So, for a laser to burn through something moving that fast and that tough, it needs way more power. But how much more? The Pentagon believes the Navy will need a 1 megawatt laser. That's 3 times more powerful than HELCAP. And in July 2022, the company completed the preliminary design for a high-energy laser that combines multiple laser beams into one super powerful beam. That means instead of just using one laser, they've merged several into a single, devastating ray of energy. Their goal is to make sure that no matter how fast or powerful enemy missiles get, the laser will burn them out of the sky before they even reach their target. And the best part is, it'll cost less than a coffee cup per shot. So what do you think? Are laser weapons the ultimate game changer for the US Navy? Or will countries like China and Russia find a way to counter them? Let us know in the comments.